Hello. Today we will be talking about some of the main setup you need to have in place when using the Brazilian solution in IFS Cloud. In the page country, you can enter the 5-digit BACEN code for the countries used in the application by selecting the alternate country codes in the nested list. In the page states, you can define the 2-digit IBGE code for the states used in the column numeric state code. In the page cities, you can define the 5-digit IBGE codes for the cities using the column numeric city code. Once the company is created and Brazilian localization is defined, the localization control center will be loaded with all the Brazilian specific attributes you can configure when using the solution. Please note that if you use external tax system for tax determination, electronic nota fiscal integration, or tax compliance, the parameter integration to the Brazilian external tax system must be selected. The tax ID numbers such as CNPJ, state registration, SUFRAMA must be defined for the company, customer, and supplier in the tab Address Tax Information using the address-specific tax ID number section. The parameters form of business and classification of business must also be defined for company, customer, and suppliers in the application. If the external tax system is used for the integration of electronic nota fiscal, you have to set the NFA communication method as Avalara in Invoice NFA Compliance tab. Here, additionally, you can set if the incoming or outgoing nota fiscal will be processed manually or automatically by changing these toggle buttons. The nota fiscal series and number can be configured in the official invoice number components under Invoice General tab. This functionality in Cloud replaces the old company site setup functionality in the previous GET product. Once the company is created and defined with the Brazilian localization, the component A, B, and C, as well as the sequence, will be automatically defined as series, branch, model, and nota fiscal number. On each tab, you have to enter the values used. The tab component A, renamed as series, you have to enter the series used when issuing nota fiscal of goods or service. The component B, renamed as branch, you have to enter some reference of the branches you have in the application. And please note that the branches must be connected to the site. This is a one-to-one relation. In the tab component C, renamed as model, you have to enter all the modules of the fiscal documents you issue and receive in the application. In the tab branches, you can define the combination of component A, B, and C, which were defined as series, branch, and model, that will be used when issuing nota fiscal of goods or services per branch. In this example, we have two series added here, being one for goods and another for service, and the combination of component A, which is the series, B, the branch, and C, the model, are defined in accordance. So as you can see, the first line 009 is defined as category goods, and this is the default series of goods. The line number 2, series 10, is defined as category service, and this is the default series for this category. Here you will define the range of the nota fiscal numbers used for each case, and you can also define if the series will be manually issued or not. When the toggle button is unselected, that means this series in particular will be integrated to the tax authority system using the external tax system. If the external tax system is used for tax determination, you have to set the external tax calculation method as Avalara Tax Brazil in Tax Control External Tax System. Additionally, you have to set the external tax codes mapping with all the tax codes which will be used to handle the taxes returned by external tax system for the application. This setup is done per tax. The acquisition reason IDs in IFS Cloud have a similar concept than the destination IDs in the previous GET product. In the page Acquisition Reason, you can enter the acquisition reason IDs to use when doing the business transactions in the application. The acquisition reason is used to define the purpose for which the goods is being purchased for. For example, in the sales side, the acquisition reason is used to define the reason why customer is purchasing these goods from the company, and in procurement, this is used to define the reason why company is purchasing the goods from supplier. Each acquisition ID must be connected to the external user type in case external tax system is used for tax determination. In the page Business Transaction Codes, you can enter the business transaction IDs to be used when doing the business transactions in the application. The business transaction codes have a similar concept than the operation IDs in the previous GET product. Each business transaction ID must be connected to the external tax system reference string in case external tax system is used for tax determination. Additionally, you can connect the acquisition reason ID previously created to the business transaction code. In the Customer and Supplier page, under Address Delivery Tax Information tab, you can set the ICMS Taxpayer toggle button and define the default business transaction ID to be used. In the Payment tab of Customer, you can define the default payment mode to be used. In the page Acquisition Origin, you can enter the acquisition origin and description according to the official list made available by the tax authority. In the page Business Operation, you can enter the CFOP codes to be used when doing the business transactions in the application. This setup is not needed when the external tax system is used, since the CFOP is an information received from the response file returned by the external tax system. In the page Goods and Services Statistical Codes, you can enter the service codes used to classify the services and the NCM codes used to classify the goods. The Goods and Services Statistical Codes can be later defined for the master part or directly in the Purchase, Sales or Inventory part page. In the Part page, select the Part Details, then Brazilian Specific Attributes command button, and in the Brazilian Specific Attributes page, you can define the product type classification by selecting one of the options from the drop-down list. You can enter the CEST code for tax substitution, as well as the FCI hash code. In the section Company Defaults, you can define the Goods and Services Statistical Codes, as well as the acquisition origin. The Goods Services Statistical Codes and acquisition reason defined for the master part will be automatically copied for all the part-related pages, such as Sales part, Inventory part, and Purchase part. But you can also define specific values directly in these pages in case you want. In the page Purchase Charge Type, you can define the Brazilian charge category by using one of the options from the drop-down list. This field is used to classify the reason for what the charge will be used for. Please note that the specific customs fees are also handled as charges in IFS Cloud. In the page Site, define the delivery address in the tab Extended Site Info and Document Address in the tab Sales and Procurement. Then enter the branch in the tab Sales and the default charges for freight, insurance, and expenses in the tab Procurement. One service might have different service codes depending on the list provided by the city government where the service provider is placed and where the service taker is placed. In the page City Codes per Non-Inventory Sales part, you can set the service codes according to the list provided in the cities. You can also set the toggle button Labor Assignment, which is used to define if this service has a local crew working in the place where this is provided. The same setup can be done in the page city codes per reporting codes for the report codes used in the project invoice to handle services. So these are the main basic data setup required when using the Brazilian solution in IFS Cloud. Bye!